This weekend, Andy finds a button in a hallway. Ryan really gets into it, and we wonder what's with Mario. I'm Ryan.
I'm Andy.
And this is Weekend Rental, episode 163. All right, back with another episode. Inching closer to winter here. I don't know, is it snowing where you're at?
Not yet, but this weekend maybe.
Yeah, I've told half the state I occupy is under snow right now, and it feels like the rain outside could shift to snow at any moment, which I'm not at all prepared for. So
it's gonna be a white Halloween.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, which is always brutal. Like, it seems like that happens like every third year, where Halloween's just like 2 inches of snow and you freeze your ass off, and then it melts for a week or two, but then we get right back into winter. So it's good. Good time for hunkering down in gaming, though. At least that's
what they say.
Yeah, and I mean, we arguably got one of the best 2D Mario games of all time this last week. How have you been liking Wonder?
Oh wow, yeah, that game is just amazing. The fact that they have some gimmick in every single level, I think that's the thing that just truly amazes me.
Yeah. Just that I'm not going to spoil too much for anyone, but that second stage where the piranha plants just start coming out, like singing in unison while you're murdering them, if you choose to, is so delightful. And like, that's where the smile hits your face, and that smile has not left my face in the hours following that. Yeah, Wonder is an appropriate title. And like you said, like just the fact that, you know, they pulled it out of the Mushroom Kingdom. You're in the, I don't know what they call it, Flower Kingdom, Floret Kingdom. Yeah. So it's slightly different. So they're allowed to take liberties, right? And yeah, those Wonder Seeds are just this brilliant ingestion of like Nintendo brain crack. It's like they took things that you would expect to see in Wario, but like threw it to you in a Mario game in ways that you just would not ever anticipate. Like, you find yourself blowing past flagpoles. You find yourself playing Ikari Warriors in a top-down perspective. Yeah. I mean, it never ends. It's just so wild. Like, when you think you've seen the craziest thing, something new happens. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And they totally fixed the flaw of the new series where there's no clipping, right? Like, nobody clips on anybody. Nobody's jumping on heads. Nobody's throwing somebody off a cliff. Like, it's chaos, 100% chaos, but you're all playing on your own merit. You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly. And the thing that from those old games that really bothered me was when somebody died, it froze.
Yes.
For like a second, and it would always mess you up.
Yep.
So, and they got rid of that. And the ghost system is kind of like the bubble system, I guess.
Yeah, a little smoother.
Yeah. But man, yeah, even for like my kids who have varying degrees of skill at this type of game, they really added a lot in that regard too, with the Yoshis not taking damage. And you can ride on a Yoshi if you want. If it's like, this is a running jump, my kids have problems with those sometimes. And it's like, well, just hop on Yoshi. We'll go across, Yeah.
Yeah, they really thought a lot about it in the badge system, which seems sort of weird at first, like really adds a lot to the gameplay. I've heard some people talk about how cool the foreground stuff is. I agree. That's really neat. I liked it a lot in the Return to Donkey Kong series, which is exactly where this came from. It fits incredibly well in this game, but let's not pretend that wasn't just lifted from that. Love it though. Some of the things I've not been a huge fan of is, which I guess has been a lot of Mario games, is like the secrets through defying what should be sheer death. Like, I don't like having to ride a pipe off screen, assuming I'm going to die, and then have it turn into the portal that takes me to the Wonder Seed. Like that, I get it. They've been there forever, but like that pisses me off. Like, when you try to logic the shit out of a level for like play after play, and you're like, I'm missing something, and it's just like you get the person who sucks who comes in and like falls off screen, and you're like, we got this. It's like, okay. That's satisfying, but also very frustrating.
Yep. Yeah. In some ways, they've gotten better at telegraphing that too. As far as like what not to check, because I've noticed like the pits that actually kill you are actually have like a extra layer of darkness on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Whereas ones that are like, oh, you can go down here or whatever, it just doesn't, So there is like at least a visual indicator. For a while there, I thought it was even the pipes were giving indicators of which ones you could go down.
Like the moss and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if I've actually proven that that's the case.
Well, now there's that new whole layer of like, can you move the pipe? Does the pipe slide?
Right.
Like, does that like, so now everything's like a test, you know what I mean? And like the contention at our house has been the who tops the flagpole, right? Because if you get that crown and you top the flagpole, the camera follows you the next time. So if it goes to one of my,
that's huge.
If it goes to my daughter and my wife, they don't want it. They're like already freaked out that they have it. If it goes to my son, we're going to spend 45 minutes with him blocking us into one screen because he needs to jump and like hit the one invisible block that's not there that he thinks is something. And we waste like 45 minutes of our life. Thankfully, some of that's alleviated by the fact that there's no time, which I really appreciate because time hasn't made sense in these games. Just like coins haven't really made sense in these games in forever. So that's a nice change. I don't know. There's something. I mean, we're about maybe a third of the way through the game. There's just something though obviously amazing about it. Like from your first initial impressions that like, I love this. Like this is a top 5 all-time Mario game. No questions, right?
Oh yeah. The wonder stuff, the wonder seeds is really what does it for me. But even some of those aren't like, they don't all work the best. Right. They're different. And the thing that got me was like a few of those early ones are timed.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have to run after something and catch them, or you have to, it's very like time and speed limited to the point where that I think that trained in my brain because a lot of times they use the same music when the Wonder Seed comes in. So like when it happens, all of a sudden I'm just like running as fast as I can, trying to barrel through everything. And it's like, no, most of them actually aren't that way. So you can actually like take in the weirdness and
it feels like like a fourth of them at least where I've gotten have been timed for sure.
Yep. Which is like my poor kids, because it's just like something switches and the whole thing, like the whole level switches, and all of a sudden I'm just like, bye, see ya.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing is like I was always bitching at like everybody else who didn't have the crown, like you're going the wrong way, like don't do that, you're slowing us down. And then my wife, like, so I got it one time and just blasted through a level. And she's like, you realize you're an asshole, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, you're doing the same thing. You do the same thing. You just go. You don't care where we're at. You get that. I'm like, I'm better. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize for being good. Like, I'm not going to wait for you guys. But she has a fair point, and I was killing them all without really paying any attention to it.
So. Yeah, that is one thing. The collision is on the side of the screen. It actually pulls.
Yes, it does.
Pulls you. So, yeah, if you're not keeping up with the person with the crown, you're gonna have a rough time.
My favorite move, like on a new level, is like where you realize the flagpole is, and because I don't want to lose it, like I'll nerf everybody and run back quick and like make sure I get the good jump, and then I go and they just get pissed. It's really good though, and like that, I like just like the fuck it, we don't need to explain this aspect of it. Like the Wonder Seed warping stuff, all the things that happen, it's never explained. Why plants talk, I hate those flowers, by the way. They can shut the fuck up. And why you turn into an elephant is never ever addressed.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, like, because it's fun, right? Like the answer is it's fun. That's why.
Yep. And Bowser is just his castle now.
Yeah, he's just a floating head. And Bowser Jr. is still a dumbass who barely presents a challenge, but yeah, it's something I need to dive back into this weekend for a few more hours, but we we really loved it as a family. It's funny because I played like a little bit with my son, and then on Sunday, all four of us dove back in, and we had done the first castle, and my son had gotten pissed off because I missed the power up block timing, so we didn't get the elephant. We just got the big, right? So we get to the second castle, all four of us, and my son's like, "We got to make sure we do this right." I was like, "All right, you're right. We'll try to time it out." I was like, "It's a little tricky. It's kind of a lottery system." So we spawn into the next screen, and everyone's just standing there, and all of a sudden my daughter just like bolts across, kaboom, hits the big. And just instinctually, I was like, "You fucking idiot!" Like I scream out because she hadn't heard any of this conversation. She's like 10 feet away from us. And my wife is just like crying, laughing at the whole situation. And my daughter's like, What did I do? I'm like, nothing. Like, it's fine. Like, just a game that just brings those emotions out is an instant classic. So,
oh, yeah. That's, if anything, the biggest conflict here is also, the power-ups. Like, people like getting all of the power-ups.
Yes.
Out of one block. Yeah.
What kills me is like the power up stealing. So I'll be like, I'm going to pause for a second and get a power up. And then like, inevitably somebody else jumps through and steals mine like before I get it.
Yeah. Because it's like, in a bubble for like a second.
It's like, right? I'm pulling this from reserves. What are we doing here, people? Yeah. It's cool. It's cool to see it like kind of, it almost melds 3D World in terms of like layout and like progression and choice of level with the 2D stuff, which is really neat to see. So,
and the very varying degrees of difficulty are cool too, because I think I was on that one level where the blocks go to a tempo.
Yep, we haven't beaten that.
I spent about 40 minutes by myself trying to do that one, and I got to the last block and it stuffed me right at the end and I fell down.
Yes, I failed it with 3 seconds left on the clock, and I felt no remorse in just moving on from that. We all took turns as a family because we're like, nope, it's so much easier if just one person's doing it. So we took turns, and like 45 minutes went by, and I was like, we need to move the fuck on from this.
We haven't gotten to that point. That was me. Everybody left while I was like, I need to beat this.
Can I ask, have you tried the add extra blocks badge on that level yet?
Yep. And I still have not. It adds a lot, but it just like extends a little bit.
Do they still fade away then?
No, those don't fade away, but there's not enough on. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to just jump without it just makes them a little bit wider. That's it.
Okay, that was our discussion after leaving that one. I was like, I wonder if that would make it easier, but apparently not. So yeah, it's great. I will be honest, I wasn't overly excited about this. Like I wasn't a big fan of new Super Mario Brothers U. I think it had worn out its welcome. I think they corrected virtually everything that I dislike about that and pulled in most of the elements from 3D World that I do enjoy. So it's cool. I don't like a lot of the new enemies because they're dicks, and I don't know how their patterns work yet. So it's really frustrating, but it's fun.
Yeah, they have enough playfulness with it, like the singing piranhas and where it's like, this is a totally different feeling to most of those enemies anyway.
Yeah.
It's like half of them are just there to have a good time. They're not even necessarily care about you.
I feel a little bit bad for Mario having to like carry around like a 20-pound caterpillar in his back, but it is what it is. So I'm curious to see what the conclusion of this one will be from like a final boss battle, like a 3-phase thing, because like it could really be nuts. Like it could be good.
Well, and I think we've only done the Bowser Jr. one just one time, and just that boss battle, it just flips the script.
Yeah,
so many times already. Yeah.
So you haven't gotten to the airship version of him yet?
Nope.
Okay, I think that's the next encounter. Like the fight is, how his fights are. They're relatively in line, but it harkens back to the old Mario 3 airship type level. It's really pretty fucking sweet.
Huh.
So I will say I don't feel like the music tracks, they're great, but I don't feel like I'm humming anything new that I haven't heard before.
Sure. Yeah.
Which maybe that's just because there's so much visually to take in that I don't think about it, but
it's better than the new Super Mario where it was just Koopas going wah wah,
yeah,
to every little.
Yeah, that's true. It's a great game though. I'm super glad I picked
Yeah.
it.
It's wild that can just continue. Like, how do you just go on this string of quality Mario games,
Yeah. It'll be a nice I guess swan song for this should be the last Mario game without question, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, I would imagine so. I hope they make another one of these though. That'd be cool.
Oh god, yeah, I hope this is like a new leg of the game. We made the mistake of ending our last we all got done after a few hours, and then it's like, let's cleanse ourselves with a nice friendly game of Mario Party, and that did not carry over well. We did a 10 move game, and like by the halfway point there were blows and like people threatening to back out, and then I for the first time won.
Wow.
And I was not humble about that in the slightest, so that caused other issues.
Was it the type at the end where it's just like, here's some give me stars that put you over the top?
Yeah, so I don't remember what it was. Yeah. Like, I was the only person who had actually gotten a star, but then there was like some, I don't remember what category it was, but everyone but my son got a star on top of that. So like I was already like guaranteed to win, and then he got no bonus stars. Oh my God. He was just pissed, and he blamed most of it because he bought a warp pipe item, but then it like gave him the screen where he had to pick like, okay, you already have 3 keys. Which one do you want to drop? And he thought he was using his warp pipe thing, but he wasn't. He discarded it. And that basically cost him the game because the warp pipe was the only reason I won because I screwed my wife over. But yeah, it that game still just divides families, where Wonder sort of brings you together, at least a little bit.
A little bit better, yeah. I think it's Mario Party 3 that came out. Is that what?
Yeah, coming to 64, which might as well talk about that because your hankering for analog was going to be an AES or SNK or MVS. Instead, we got the most laughable, sad analog of all time. We're getting an analog made Nintendo 64. Because who wants that?
Man, who?
Probably
that
a
thing
lot
is
of
going to be so expensive.
I just think it's funny too because they finally cracked the core on Mister. Like it sounds like there's finally a reliable, very functional version on the Mister to emulate 64, and Analog is now doing this.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that they beat the Mister to that.
Yes.
To like an FPGA version of a 64.
And I'm confused too because like generally when they announce this stuff, there's like a mock-up of the console, but there hasn't been any images.
There was like one little
corner, right?
Like the curve or whatever of a shadow, kind of.
And no price point, no projected ship date, just that it's coming for pre-order. And I just kind of was like, well, I'm done with that now. I'm good. I'll move on to some other news.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that this probably hits home with like a lot of people, but I could give zero shits. Like if there's any console, I feel, because here's the thing. Like even if you can get it running well, what's the benefit to having it put out 4K visuals and looking like, you know what I mean? Like it's only going to make your 64 game look uglier, in my opinion.
Yeah, like it's going to make those polygons sharper, but it's still those polygons.
And that's not what you're going to remember, right? Like everybody remembers like the fluffiness and like the 10 feet of like draw distance. And
Yeah, that's not going to change anything.
What are you doing? I mean, I assume. Well, I don't even have to assume. I know there will be updates and like ways to adjust a lot of that stuff. So I guess you're getting that plus the ability to emulate a whole other bunch of other consoles. But oof. Just oof.
This is the first aftermarket 64 though, right?
I
don't know if like Hyperkin never did anyone.
No, did one, did they? I was trying to think. There's some other companies that are doing like different shells and stuff, but you're right. They weren't consoles. So yeah, probably. I mean, the first one of any quality. I don't think anybody's done anything of note. I always would have heard about it, but I don't know. That thing's a bastard. Everyone who listens to this podcast knows what I think about that system. And the fact they're selling a boutique, high-end version of it is just not for me. But
it would be funny. It would be funny if they required their own controllers too, and you had to buy 4 analog controllers.
Hopefully, it's like the aftermarket Hori ones that like somebody's making Castlevania games or I Am 8-Bit. Somebody. Those are all right. I was happy though with that announcement that they confirmed the ship date of the Duo is end of this year. So
really, okay.
I should get my analog Duo hopefully by the start of next year. So there's that.
That's cool.
Yeah, that I'm excited about. Not so much.
I mean, they got to the end. That's the last cartridge one. So what do you do?
The end or the beginning? Because now you can get the CDs, right? Well, they're doing it.
I suppose.
Duo, I guess, but yeah. I suspect Saturn's next up. If you're gonna start off disc based, you might as well do Saturn, right? That's the nut to crack.
That's the part where I don't know. They'd have to license because that's when you get into BIOS stuff.
Is that still not free?
I don't think so. Oh. No, I think that's still like.
You're right. Maybe it is SNK or 3DO that you get to then.
Yeah, because I don't know if the Turbo had BIOS on their Duo, like on the CD.
That's a good question. And N64 just became like public domain, 3 years ago or something? So.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's just proprietary software or firmware or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. They might be able to they'd probably be able to reverse engineer something that would work. That's probably a thing that they could do.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I did not at all expect the 64. I guess I probably should have, but
I didn't think they were there yet. I thought still thought it was a long ways away from saying like, oh, here's a product that's going to pretty much play every 64 game, in a high end way.
The future is now. So
yeah.
You been playing anything new other than one?
I've beaten 2 games this week.
Shut up.
Yeah, the first game was like 20 minutes.
Oh.
And the second game was maybe an hour.
Oh.
Yeah. So I can talk about those. They're just some Steam indie games that I have on my library that looked like something that was interesting. The first one was called The Corridor, where you're literally just a guy in a hallway and there's a button at the end and you go press the button. That's pretty much the game. But my kids especially loved it because it's kind of got a Portal, Stanley's Parable type vibe to it.
Is this the one that I was hearing about that had like just awful rendering distances? Like you'd like walk up to stuff and like wait for like signs and things to like render in so you could like read them and interact with them and stuff?
Oh, I didn't see any of that. No. Okay. This is a really basic game. I don't think it would. So you boot up the game and you're literally in the this hallway. You walk to the end, you press the button, and the narrator just says, "Don't ever open this game again," and it just closes to desktop. So then you boot it up again, and then you're in the same hallway, and he's just like, "How dare you?" So it goes from there. Basically, he's just like not wanting you to play the game. Basically,
can you poop in the hallway to piss the narrator?
No, it's literally just go find the button, press the button, shuts off the game.
And you just keep doing this until it ends.
Yep, you probably do it 50 times, maybe, or so. Most of the runs are maybe like 30 seconds long.
Okay.
By the third or fourth time you boot it up, there's a little window that says, "Hey, you might want to like go invisible or look offline to your friends on Steam," because every 30 seconds it's like, he's playing Corridor. He's playing Corridor.
Sure,
you know,
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. It's funny.
Yeah, but the kids love that. That one goes some places, but yeah, it's got that that kind of humor from those type of games, which I appreciate. I think it was like $1. It's probably not very expensive. The other game is a game called Save Room, and it is the Resident Evil 4 inventory system turned into a puzzle game.
Okay, why? That's the
part. That's the best part of that game. That's great.
No, it's having to find typewriters to use the save ribbon at.
Nah, that's true. But yeah, so this is it's got the whole like suitcase, you know, a little different grid that you have to fit all your guns and your ammo and your herbs and eggs and a whole bunch of stuff into it.
Sure.
And that's basically all the game is, but it does get into some more strategy where you actually have to like eat some of the food that hurts you, so then you can eat your healing items to, you know, basically burn through items. So you, yep. And you know, put ammo in different guns and combine different things to make the ammo. And yeah, so it goes some places where it actually turns into kind of like a more substantial puzzle game.
Interesting.
But it's pretty much that. I mean, it when you're at the title screen and you press, you know, start game, he says save room in the exact same tone as Resident Evil. You know? So like,
it's just like a door slowly opening.
Yeah, they know what they're doing in this game. But yeah, it's only an hour long. I think 40 puzzles or something like that. Okay. Not too much.
Interesting.
That's about it. Still feel like I'm not ready to get back into Starfield.
Yeah, still not the draw, huh?
Yeah. Oh, I did play Forza. I went through like the tutorial on Forza, and then I remember like, yep, this is
still that game that's really good.
There's just, it's just so dry. There's no fun in this game.
So this isn't like the last one. It's like more open world and stuff. It's like,
yeah, this is
like
track racing. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And this one's terrible because I don't think the other ones have done this in the past, but they basically make you run practice laps before the race. So you have to do 3 laps of practice before the race even starts. And it's like, it just feels like it drags on. It probably helps me when it gets to the race, but it's, I don't know.
I feel like you should look at your hard drive though in your save states. It's like if you've played X amount of hours in like any other game, like you got this, right?
Yep. And there's progression. They give you like progression points as you race in those practice laps, but it just feels like I want to get through this series of races so I get my money and I can go buy new cars and stuff like that instead of racing the same track essentially twice.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'd heard that came out, but again, I was kind of like in the same boat where I was like, I like those, but I installed the last one and played it for like 4 hours. So
yeah,
you know,
Yeah, it's the same thing. I really don't know. Like, I feel even their marketing and all their trailers for that were just this was also just like Forza, play it.
Yeah, I
They
don't
didn't even
feel
like
like it was
explain
in your
what's
face,
different.
right? Yeah.
What's different? What did they add? There's I don't know.
And it's so ingrained with Xbox too that like you have to almost do something to make it jump out, and they just didn't. So
Yep.
it's weird. I I haven't played much of anything. I think I finally finished Dadish 3,
Ooh.
where it turns
Yep.
out twist ending. Your friend the dolphin is actually is the bad enemy at the end. So
Really? Oh man.
and when you kill the dolphin he explodes into tuna cans, which is pretty awesome. So those games are great. Download and install Daily Dadish on your iPhone or Android for free and continue to play those games. I recommend all those. And I don't think I've done any other game. We finally figured out how to play the Animal Crossing Monopoly, which is pretty good. I mean, I don't like learning like a whole new rule set for every goddamn Monopoly I play, but
it doesn't really feel like Monopoly, does it?
It feels more like a traditional board game.
Yep.
It's fine. So
it's still all about making money, I guess. But
yeah, speaking of that too, Blink-182, a new album. So everyone's excited because they're back, even though they never went away. But Tom's back, and then there's like a big hype train and interviews and the band talking about how this is the best iteration of Blink-182, and then they put out the most. I'm sorry, because I'm a fan of some of their stuff, but the most meh album. This is probably top 3 worst for sure. Like, there's nothing offensive with this album. One More Time,
no,
but there is also nothing that stands out about this album.
No, and nothing that feels like them either, really.
No, and they put that Boxcar Racer song on there, which sounds exactly like Boxcar Racer, the Terrified one. Yeah, it's like the Juvenile stuff was there, but there was nothing like irreverently upbeat and silly enough to be like, hee hee, old Blink, and there was nothing. It's just like a lot. It reminded me kind of a lot of like an album of theirs I don't like either, which is controversial, but Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, which is just like they went so hard into like the monotone and like the dark that like just nothing rises above that, except that album had The Rock Show and First Date, where this album doesn't have. This album has Edging, which isn't that good. I'm sorry.
No, that's yeah. I'm not a fan of that song either. I mean, they brought Anthem 3. What are you supposed to do?
I didn't even pay close enough attention to know there's Anthem 2, and I don't care that there's a third one. I just, again, it's fine if you want to like celebrate the fact that you're all friends again and back together, but they kind of put out an album acting like this was like a revolution, and really it's just a reason to like highlight the fact that you're a legacy band who doesn't realize that you're a legacy band yet. Is sort of how I feel about this.
Yeah, a legacy band that somehow can sell out a big show yet, and they're not doing casinos.
Understand. Right.
But yeah,
I've seen you live. You're awful. You were the worst band I've ever seen live. Like, I'm sorry, Blink-182. You're putrid dog shit live. Just garbage. And the fact that they sell out stadiums and people, I mean, they must be running things through like auto-tune and like stuff in live shows now. Because like I've seen some videos and it's like, well, this sounds sort of like them. But that is not how they actually sound.
Really?
Assistance. By far the worst concert I've ever been to is them.
Really? Wow. Huh. Yeah, this one especially just there was no real riffs to anything. That's what I like. That's my main thing is a good riff. And there was nothing. There's nothing that even really sounded like it.
No. And even
Travis has Travis is all about, I mean, he was filling some drums like crazy, like he usually does, but yeah.
I almost found the distinction too, and I don't know if it was the production or the fact that Mark had cancer, but like I really had a hard time at points distinguishing who was singing. Like,
yeah, it is kind of weird.
It was kind of tough this time.
Yeah,
where it was always so distinct before. But yeah, as someone who's been a lifelong fan of that band, even before Enema of the State, like I was early on to those guys. Like that album dropped, to listen to it once through, and I haven't touched it again. I got my answer.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I didn't think their previous album with Skiba, I didn't think 9 was that great either, but they're both just equally. They're fine. They're fine music, but I'm not going to go back and like listen to any one of those tracks. Like, this is my favorite song, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder when that happens. Like there's plenty of bands that are hugely popular and still keep putting out stuff, but you never hear about it. Right.
Right.
But
yeah, in fact, Alkaline Trio released a new single the same week. And that single is it's infinitely better than any song on this album. Like, I'm not gonna lie, go listen to that song. The music video is great too. They got some, I can't remember which skaters. It's not Alva. It's oh god, it's gonna bother me. I know his name too. Classic pro skater, like Dogtown era. He's in the video, but yeah, that's a great song.
I'll have to check that one. I haven't heard that one. Yeah, I like them, but that's funny. I wonder if they like, yeah, let's put this out around the same time.
Yeah, I'm sure he's like, well, I was capitalizing the hype, right? And to be fair, like everyone in Blink, like I don't know if you saw that interview they did with their buddy or whatever, but everyone was like very generous about like Skiba's involvement, and like it was kind of an interesting interview too, where it was mostly like them focusing on like Mark, and he's like, last time I talked to you, you were like, never fucking again will I take the stage with Tom. Like, I'll fucking die. Which I mean, I guess he was so like, I don't know what they worked through. I'm honestly skeptical if this produces another record with them. I think the answer is we don't need another one following this.
Yeah.
Whether or not they choose to is their own thing. But following whatever the hell that new single is from Green Day, I'm just like getting to the point in my life where it's like, can I just have like my grade school heroes accept the fact that it's okay to become a legacy band? Kiss hasn't put out a new album in like 40 years and people still love them and they still tour. Like, do I have to have newer, shittier versions of what you think is good music? Because the answer is you don't, especially if you're Green Day. You have 40 singles. You have 3 hours of concert that is all
right.
AAA. Like, let's just stop. Like, people want that. That's enough,
And that's what is a new album like? There's not that much in album sales that you're making anymore, right?
Right. So the model, you're already throwing away 80% of it, right?
Right. So like the common person that's gonna like listen to this new Blink 182 thing is just listening to these songs instead of listening to the old songs that they usually are. So like they're not gaining anything on a per song play, I feel like.
No. And inevitably whatever platform you're listening to it on is going to revert you back to the 40 millionth listened to single they had from 40 years ago. So like the algorithm is going to feed itself and these are never going to top that. And that's a fact.
Right.
So yeah. Which is, I guess, ties into something else I want to talk about. I didn't bring, I think maybe we talked about it. I didn't bring it up, but I watched this amazing documentary that I just stumbled across on YouTube, and the channel's called I Really Get Into It. And then the full length of the doc, it's a full film. It's called I Really Get Into It. It's like the heroes of like the hardcore or like the punk scene in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And it all follows like this like early or late 80s to early 90s era in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, of all places, just a few hours south of us, where apparently there's like this burgeoning like underground DIY, punk hub of people putting on, a couple guys putting on shows in like, essentially your local VFW hall.
Yeah.
In the days where nobody had cell phones or smartphones and the internet was like not a thing. And it's kind of this incredible documentary that I think I would encourage anyone who's got like an interest in punk rock and underground music. Like if you one of those kids who grew up in like one of those, because everybody had one. Everybody in every small town or every city had like your pocket, right? Like everybody had this pocket of people who were into that, and like you were never it was like the freaks find each other is the way I kind of look at it. And I didn't realize to the extent that Sioux Falls had become a hub, because certainly, 3 hours north here in Fargo, that was not happening, at least anywhere near this extent. But yeah, these kids were just like on this like DIY, like open up the notebook and call this guy thing to book a show. And they're showing like Green Day playing back even before Kerplunk. They've got Neurosis, they've got Skank and Pickle, the Offspring, all these bands, and like they have all this footage of these bands, and they're nobody. You know what I mean?
Like, and they're like in a church basement, it looks like.
Yeah, with like a 6 foot tall ceiling. Like people are almost hitting their heads. Yeah. And it's just like, I'm just like, are you kidding me that all this shit happened right underneath my nose? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just incredible. And like, it largely focuses like on the scene and that, DIY ethos before punk really broke, pop punk, where it was like, no, these are all ages shows. Like we do them clean. Like you pay what you can, $5 tops to get in. And, it was like for every reject out there who just wasn't into the whole, I want to be part of the football team crowd, which, as a lot of the kids in those documentaries talk about, they're like, yeah, we got screamed at. People drove by and like yelled like faggot and loser. And I was like, hey, I remember that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I get it too.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it was
the wild thing about me that I only saw about half of it. And
sure,
the fact that how many of them were like 12 and 13 and their parents are like just dropping them off at this place. Like, I don't think my parents would have dropped me off at this place at that age.
Yes.
But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because they were also that was the age of the bands half the time.
Right.
Too.
That was always the thing that like bummed me out with my parents. Cause like I was into that stuff, but I was still a pretty obedient kid. And like my mom was like, no, you can't go do that. Like, no, you can't go to Fargo. Like, no, you can't go with your friends to Warped Tour. No, you can't drive to the next town to enter that snowboard competition. So it's like, man, it would have been cool, but yeah, you're right. Like it is wild how young that audience was. I liked the story of the one guy too, who's just like it was my life. Like these shows, he's like, and then one day I just didn't have like the $4. We were too poor. So he's like, I hid in the janitor's closet. And the guy busted me. He was like, dude, you don't ever have to pay a show. Like just ask, just tell me. And it's just like, that's the stuff where like, I think everybody had that community in those like weird little groups where it's like, yeah, everybody watched out for each other. Nobody's trying to make a buck. You're just trying to pay the bands enough to justify them coming, right?
Yep.
So, but yeah, I just, I really liked that documentary. It's really cool, small town like scene thing, very relatable. 2 hours long. It's pretty lengthy, but like I've been watching that channel since because they keep uploading like old concert footage, and they'll do like a full like Green Day run from like 1991, and it's pretty neat to see. So, and the fact that they had like real like DIY people like step up and interview, like they got Mike Park from Asia Man Records, Skank and Pickle, the Chinkies, the Mike Park Band, and then they got Ian McKay from obviously Minor Threat and Fugazi. Like hearing those guys be like, "Oh yeah, Sioux Falls, like fuck yeah, like that was the place to go." Like
we had no idea,
right? It's like I would have killed in 1993 to see some of these bands, but yeah, pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's wild that it was just right there for that.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's free. I really got into it. I think is the name of the channel. Just probably check it out if you have a passing interest. Or watch some of the concert footage they upload. It's pretty neat. So it's all
Oh, go ahead.
No, I got nothing good.
I about fell out of my chair when I realized or I saw that there's a band named Metallica though.
I didn't even catch that. That's pretty amazing. I was just watching some of like the street footage and being like, hey, we've been there. I've been in that shop.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how many of like those records are sitting in Last Stop.
Well, that's what I wonder too, because it's like, yeah, we're going down there and looking at records. Like, I wonder, I didn't even realize, them explaining like, yeah, nobody was printing vinyl. We just like flipped over this record one day and realized there's this company down in like Nashville. So we called them up and we're like, hey, can you make like these 7 inches for us? That's pretty ingenious.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was a good recommendation. Every once in a while, YouTube recommends something that you're like genuinely interested in. Doesn't happen often, but well, are we at staff picks already?
Yep.
All right, you can go first.
Yeah. As is the holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
Watch some scary movies. We checked out Trick or Treat. Have you seen this?
What's it on?
I think we watched it on Max, maybe. Okay. HBO. It's an older movie, maybe mid 2000s or something like that. I'm not sure, but it's kind of like a Tales from the Crypt kind of vibe, where it's one night during Halloween in this town, but it's like you're looking at like 5 different, groups of people having their own little story going on. And yeah, it's I would recommend it quite a bit. It's a pretty good I don't know, kind of like a horror comedy style.
I kind of like stuff like that where it's like the Creep Show vibe, where you get like a few different scenarios instead of.
Yeah, it's definitely very much trying to be a Creep Show. So yeah, that's I guess that's a really good comparison. That's probably exactly what this movie is.
Any notable actors in it?
It's people that you have seen. Okay. I think it's one of those where you're like looking at the person and you're like, I know I've seen you in something, and then maybe like a half hour later, you're like, oh, that's what you were,
Sure.
But not a name, really, I don't think. But yeah, it's kind of following these different people. It's a little out of order. Things are kind of intertwined. But yeah, there's some good stuff. It's Scary Pumpkin Man.
And it's suitable for families?
I think it's rated R.
Oh, okay.
So it is an R rated. So I wouldn't watch it with a family, but it's also probably one on the side of like people who don't really like horror movies would be probably fine with it.
Okay.
Yeah. The main bad guy's a guy made out of pumpkin. And he kills people for disrespecting Halloween.
I mean, if you're a pumpkin man,
yep,
kind of seems like that should be your job.
Yep, exactly.
I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've heard it. So it was like a genuine, like, this thing hit theaters, like, release at some point?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of those that got, bombed, or they probably played it in February or some shit like that, and then it bombed, and then years later it's kind of like a cult classic type thing now.
Have you been like, I don't know if your YouTube blew up like mine did, with that guy promoting his like self-funded Kickstarter movie, like that Onyx the Fortuitous like character? Remember that like weird internet meme guy who was always like getting interviewed like 12 years ago? He was like that weird D&D guy who was like, well, I was down my basement, and
that
like,
guy.
You know what I'm saying? He's like, I don't know. Like that dude. He has a movie now that's coming out. So.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. You'll have to. You should watch the trailer. Like, it looks genuinely funny, but like the Kickstarter's closed, so I guess I'll have to wait for this thing to come to streaming.
Yeah. It is funny, like how many of these like YouTube people have moved on to like, oh, I'm making a movie now.
I mean, you might as well if you can get the fan base to fund it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe for James Rolfe, don't, because I want my $50 back. But
yeah, I still haven't seen the Game Chaser one, so
I genuinely enjoy that one.
Yeah,
it's very long in the tooth, but it's good. I'll have to let you watch it sometime. I'll borrow you the DVD. Mine, I'm gonna go. So since we were talking about Blink-182, so two of the albums this year that should have been like my favorite, like album of the year, between Blink-182 putting out something new and MXPX, those should have been guaranteed. Like, yep, that's my favorite album. But it's actually from a band so far with 2 months left called Wicked Bears, and they put out an album back in February called Underwater, and it's like an excellent pop punk album. The satirical tone and pessimism align with my personality pretty much perfectly.
Yep.
And it's a pretty much straightforward like pop punk / ska punk soundtrack with like really weird vocal harmonies and like tracks in general that just somehow work. And it's a great album. And like, I don't know, like there's just like weird shit he writes about like 18-wheeler where it's all about like the fact that you could be smoked by an 18-wheeler in your car and be set for life. And it's all based on the fact as to whether or not you manage to pay or not pay your insurance premium that month. And like how that's kind of fucked. And I was like, that's a great idea for a song.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all kind of stuff like that. It's all really good. There's a song too about like, I don't even know what the title is, where he's like singing about like how he's never gonna like brave a winter like he did the winter before, but he's gonna complain about it every 4th of July like it hasn't happened. I was like, yep, that's North Dakota, like to a T. And then the whole album is just like wrapped up in this like weird, quirky, like summary song where they're like, well, let's hit all the catchy chorus parts, and they just like somehow blend all their hooks from every song throughout the album, and then like tell you to have a good weekend, and it's done. And it's a great album, so listen to it. It's funny.
Yeah, I did. I listened to one. It was pretty good. Definitely got. I see what you mean about the vocal thing. It's like it's kind of. I don't know. Are they doing auto tune or something?
I don't know, but
it's weird.
There's nobody who sings like that. And my favorite song is the Lies song, where it's an entire song for like 3 minutes about how he would never lie to somebody unless he did. And then the last minute of the song, he's like, well, if I did, you're fucking fucked, you fucking fuck. So go fuck yourself, you fuck. And they just repeat that for like a minute. And like, it just makes me laugh every time because it's so stupid. But
see, yeah. That's, yeah. How do you not have any bit of that in the new Blink 182?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what you need. Yeah.
Yes. Wicked Bears. I guarantee you nobody listened to it. There's like 1,000 listeners monthly on Spotify. And yeah, Wicked Bears Underwater is probably one of the most enjoyable and catchy things to listen to all year. So check it out. Maybe.
Yep. I will.
Well, I think that brings us to something I'm excited about, and that's the Weekend Rental. I don't know. This one. So Weekend Rental, let's get into it. If you're not familiar, I hope you are. That's the segment of the podcast where we play a game for a given system. This month, or this episode, PlayStation Original, PS1. The game we played was Twisted Metal 2. And what we do is we give it some time. We talk about it and then give our thoughts as to whether we would personally buy, rent, or burn this game. I was all hopped up to do this because we were recently talking about Twisted Metal Black on here. We also guested on the Cartridge Club Game of the Month podcast. That just dropped. If you have not listened to it, you can go over to their YouTube and check it out, or I would assume they're everywhere podcasts are available.
Podcasts,
yeah. Cartridge Club. Look for the Twisted Metal Black. We're on there. We shared our thoughts. It was great, but Twisted Metal 2 got brought up a lot on that episode for good reason. Love this game. 1996. Andy, I'm curious on your thoughts because I know you haven't probably given it. You didn't give it a play like back in the day like I did. So
no, and even like I booted it up a little bit when we started doing Black.
Yeah,
but I didn't really give it that much of a fair shake until this week.
Yeah,
and yeah, you're right. It's probably up there as the best one. It's so perfect for that console. I can't believe how well it still plays.
Yeah, the hardest part of it is just the butt graphics now at this point.
Yeah.
And like I don't even mind like the tank controls because once you get used to the fact that like it's momentum based and like if you want to pivot and turn sharp, you're gonna have to do like back and over. Like,
yeah,
it becomes natural. Like once you like rewire your brain to PS1 era, and yeah, every trick and tactic and every hidden area and every choke point I remembered played exactly like I thought it would, and it was just as rewarding. And there's something about the gameplay in Twisted Metal 2 where every enemy's got their own like weird little sound or catchphrase when they do a super that just adds like this inherent personality onto everyone that just doesn't happen in Black. Like it only really comes to the forefront in this game, and it makes it so much more lively. I don't know. It's little, but it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And I feel like there's different phases in this. Whereas Black, it was just like people are on you and you just need to like get away and just shoot them off constantly. It was just, they're right there. In this game, I feel like you have some of that. You're like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting that. Yes. And then the next second, you're the one on the hunt. You know, you're the one catching the prey, basically.
Yes.
And yeah, that has a much better flow.
Yes. Yeah, there is time in the gameplay in this game to develop and assess a strategy and execute it. And there are benefits to playing smart, like getting to Antarctica and realizing that level is going to kill 90% of people for you. So stay alive and be smart and like find the hidden island. And just like all the self-destructible stuff. Like there's some of that in Black, but not to the extent like the level destruction in secret areas and like weapon unlocks underneath things you explode are so crucial to crushing people. I mean, you'll win even if you don't do it. But if you want to just decimate people, understanding where those openings are and what power-ups they're going to give you.
Oh yeah.
There's so much strategy into learning those levels.
The when you're in Paris, when you blow up the Eiffel Tower, like that blew my mind because it was like, oh, I've played this level about 4 times already, and now it's like a whole new level because of that.
And then learning how to set that up, like you collect the remote bombs, you lay them all up in the top, you wait for people to spawn and you hit them with the remote bombs, and then you stockpile the ricochet bombs, and then you just launch ricochets up that chute.
Oh,
and everybody's dead.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Or you go to the opposite end and you sit like the Notre Dame and wait for people to spawn in, because all they do is spawn in and drive off. So you just sit there and wait for them to come up and just like,
oh, sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that level already was already my favorite because you're just also killing mimes, and the music in that is just like making fun of the French so much.
Yes. And that's the thing is like the music hit me immediately, even in the LA level. Like I know that it's like a 20-second loop with like a really shitty guitar riff, like at the tail end of it, but it just gets me every time.
Yeah.
Like the way tone better than and presentation. Yeah, the tone and presentation is so good and over the top. It's like this in your face butt guitar music at the title screen, like Sweet Tooth and Flames. Like the whole package is just so outlandish. And Black has a great tone too, but it's just like grounded in like grit and reality, where this is just like grounded in, this is a video game and you're here to fuck shit up. You know what I mean? It's the Mortal Kombat of car combat. Like it's the most in your face with it.
Yeah, exactly. And just blowing up everything that you can in every area. I mean, the Amazon one looks like a freaking Doom level you're playing on. You know? It's like,
it feels like Doom level when you're playing it too, because those physics are not friendly to tight paths.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing I'll say that I didn't enjoy is I think Holland was one of my favorites because it's flat.
Yes.
As soon as you have different levels of verticality, it really messes up your weapons quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's the part where that game is like understanding where the weapon is where the level is the enemy and where it's not. And New York, you're playing against the level. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about you playing smart, and Antarctica is the same way. But yeah, Holland is one of those prime examples of like, just keep driving. You're going to be fine. Like, it's all going to work out.
Everybody's here and we're just blowing shit up. That's
Was there like 8 people on like the tightest map in the whole game, I think?
Yep. Yeah. And at least like 3 of the windmills are going to be exploded at the end too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was a little apprehensive because you never know going back to a PlayStation game how it's going to feel. But yeah, immediately it all came back to me. Like it in a way that it didn't for Black, which is crazy because I played so much Twisted Metal Black. But like as soon as this thing booted up, I was like right back in there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I put it on easy just to be safe, and I breezed through, never dying once. Immediately got to like, no, get good.
You loser. Yeah.
Right. Like,
I got that
ass. Too. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll go to medium. So I went to medium and progressed on again with more of a challenge, but I still made it through. You know, it wasn't anything crazy, but yeah.
For those that don't know, if you're on easy, it only lets you get about halfway through the story, and then it says,
right,
you gotta go.
Pussy.
Yep.
And then it all kind of culminates with you fighting Sweet Tooth's dad again, which I've never found that boss battle to be challenging. To me, it's all about driving the map and picking up enough ricochet items, and then you get him to follow you into the train tunnel, and you just ricochet.
Oh, then you get him there. Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty, and that was, I think that's the part like I was enjoying the most, was like just getting back in and like remembering my strategy for each level. It's like, oh yeah, here's where I go and do this thing. You know what I mean? And I would just do those strategies, and they worked flawlessly still.
Yeah. I definitely have not. I didn't play long enough to really develop anything like that. But having the final boss be the thing that was on the front cover the whole time was kind of surprising to me. Like I just thought that was Sweet Tooth in some weird, crazy way. But
yeah. Did you take advantage of the inputs on this one?
Yes, I did look those up, and that's a huge help.
Well, that's pretty much like clutch to the Amazonia level. Like you go to that island, and you left, right, up, freeze everybody in the lava. Oh, they're dead. Left, right, freeze, wait for the next one. They're dead. You know what I mean? The only one I couldn't remember because I was just trying to mull myself is I couldn't. The jump one is clutch, especially with lower speeds. Getting to like some of the upper platforms to get like better life and things like that.
Oh,
I couldn't remember the input for jump. I did it once accidentally, but I don't know. I think just the freeze alone is like enough of an OP thing.
Mm-hmm. And there is a code for a rear view mirror in here, so it's actually in here. When I thought like, oh,
I do recall that because it's the same one I think is also in. Jet Moto, or possibly I'm conflating it with the fact that you can unlock 1 to 2 Jet Moto courses in Twisted Metal 2. So maybe I'm getting it confused.
Yeah, there definitely is a 2-player. There's a multiplayer level.
Yeah, it's like that
for Jet Moto.
Figure 8 Jet Moto one, right?
Yeah,
I recall that. Yeah,
that's cool.
So what would you say then? Like, are you like hands down this takes Black, or?
I think Black is technically better.
Sure.
I like the control of the dual. I mean, an analog stick better.
It's hard not to, yeah.
And the graphics are better and it's smoother, but I feel like this one has more style and personality to it. That if I'm going to play one, that's going to be the one to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, especially from the get-go. Like even just that opening shitty CG cinematic where you're like driving down the road shooting shit.
I still could not have the muscle memory of the controls of backing up and doing the tank controls. Still was too left brain or something, and it took my hand off of the machine gun.
Oh,
for a while. So I would be like, oh, I'm not shooting anymore. Or,
Yeah. I'm just so used to like, you never take your finger off the machine gun button. Yeah. The tank controls admittedly are the hardest part to step back into in this one because, well, nobody plays with tank controls anymore. Plus like the sheer focus on the physics in like conjunction to like moving is pretty brutal. Like it's a game that expects you to always be moving. And when you find yourself fucking up or getting into a corner, and you're done. Can't, like, that's not good. So, yeah. Well, I mean, so then on the Byron Burn scale, what would you give this thing, do you think?
Oh, it's definitely a buy. Yeah. Okay. I wish I had those years back in the day playing this game where I could have like those moments of like trying to figure out the best way to be like, oh yeah, I got you. I figured this out. You know, I have a strategy here.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is probably first 5 to 7 games I owned for the PlayStation. So I mean, hours and hours and hours. Yeah, love it.
Did you do a lot of multiplayer then too, or not? Okay.
Yeah, I did. I was more of a fan of finding people who had a good skill level and doing the campaign together. I always thought that was more fun. Yeah. But you share like resources, so it's like you got to get somebody who doesn't suck ass.
Mm-hmm.
So, but did a lot of the competitive multiplayer too. Like you'd have sleepovers and have like 3 or 4 people around, like just passing controllers and going to Holland, like you mentioned, because that was the most wide open one. Because Holland really sets you apart. Like you need to have good strategy to win. Like it's not just like there's no gimmicks. Like you need to know what you're doing, know where the power ups are, and be good. So
this does give you enough space that if you need health, a lot of times you are able to get away and try and find health when you need it, which is helpful. And then that really got me thinking about like, I think even on the Cartridge Club, it was brought up like as if a battle royale car combat game would work. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of like those battle royales is like you have that separate time where it's quiet and you're getting your, you know, gear together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which I think would be really cool maybe in a car combat game is, you know, having that.
That's not a key point there. Yeah. That's true. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, this game kind of does give you that, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah. They're still going to track you down and they'll find you eventually. But
then you get some guy driving around saying he's there with asshole power. But I this is a buy obviously for me too. So I love it still. I was super into it, picking up playing again for this one, like way more. I was into Black too, but like this really kind of made me happy. So
yep.
I really would like to see a even lightly updated version of it. So I did see that the modified PlayStation Classic I have that I played this on has all of them, including Small Brawl. So I'm probably gonna have to go through.
Try those. More. Yeah.
I played enough to 3 to know it's but I'll maybe give it another shot. We'll see.
Just having that same format and feel with, you know, not 90-degree inclines on everything.
That's all the polygons could do.
I feel like would be a nice upgrade. Yeah. That would be kind of fun.
Excuse me. I feel like when Single Track went on to do Rogue Trip, they did manage to get rolling textures out of some of the PlayStation by that point, if I remember correctly.
So, okay.
Yeah, we'll also visit that and maybe Vigilante 8 down the road a ways. But...
yeah.
Sorry to fall asleep, but otherwise I think that's probably an episode.
Yeah. So I'm starting a Kickstarter for this battle royale car combat game. If anybody has an IP attached to it that we can attach to it, I'd gladly take it. You can send those bids over to weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on The Big X. And until next time, be kind, rewind.
Axle power.
That's who I picked right away.